So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different on the channel. Today we're going to be going over my best and worst stock purchases throughout the year 2021. Because I think it's a good idea to just reflect back to see what were the good decisions I made and what were the bad decisions I made. However, for the rankings that we're going to be doing, as you can see on the screen, it's not going to be based on how the stock performed this year, because that's not the way that we're going to be ranking this, because that's a waste of time, because sometimes you can make good decisions, but then it ends up not exactly working out in your favor. The way we're going to be ranking this is how did I go through and what was my process when I selected and invested in these companies? Was I going through the right thought process when I selected to buy and invest in this company, or was I doing a bunch of FOMO or anything like that when I decided to invest in said company? So that's the way we're going to be ranking it. So some companies that did really well this year are actually going to be some of my worst stock investment because of the way that I made the thought process to invest. Because I believe that your thought process is much more important than you actually like buying a stock that explodes 4 to 5, 6, 7 times and getting lucky that way. Because when you do something with the right process over and over and over and over again, what's going to happen is more than likely you're going to win. It's kind of like poker. If you have the right process over and over again, if you make the right decisions over and over again, sometimes you're going to be unlucky, but most of the time you're going to come out on top at the end of the day. So let's just begin this thing. These are the list of all companies. It was 23 different companies that I bought this year. And I know all the value investors out there, Tom and all the other guys, are going to see this and be like, oh my, what? You bought 23 different companies this year? Like, how are you buying this many companies? Yeah, I too was kind of shocked when I was going through this. Actually, I was shocked that it wasn't more, if I'm being honest, because like I said multiple times, part of this is a learning lesson. Like when I started investing, I really only started picking stocks last year. Before that, it was literally just investing in index funds and ETFs and mutual funds and those kind of things. This was the first time where I've like actually tried to pick stocks and try to pick winning stocks and those kind of things. So yeah, 23 different companies, and I'm finally starting to filter out to learn the procedure of how to actually invest. So let's get right into it. The first company on the list is Ally. And Ally, if you don't know, Ally is a bank here we have in America. The main reason and the main way they make their money is they do a lot of lending for cars. So Ally is one of those that I actually will go, this is going to be a B tier. Because my thought process of when I invested in Ally was, one, people were not loving Ally Bank. People were not loving banks or financials. And you see that again. Actually, I'll put Ally and Bank of America in the same spot, because when I invested in these companies, people were not investing in financial companies. People were staying away from financial companies. And I was like, yo, they're not about to crash. And they had so much money on their balance sheet because the Fed required them to hold so much money. And I was like, yo, I'm definitely going to buy into this company. And if we look at, let's just do year to date of what Ally looks like. Ally is up about 30%, which has been really, really nice for me when I invested in this company. Like I said, it's not everything that the stock is up. That's not everything, but it's still good. Like if we look at Ally and we look at Bank of America, both of them year to date are up significantly. They're up 46%. Both of them have been a very big position for me and doing really, really good things in my portfolio. So that's the first one. Next, we have Lemonade. And Lemonade is, I want to put it in between like B and C. I'll just drop it down to C. And the reason why I'm putting Lemonade in C, as you guys know, I've made multiple videos about Lemonade, is one, I got into Lemonade late. Two, I didn't sell out of Lemonade when the valuation was crazy. I mean, if you look at Lemonade stock and we do the year to date, it's down 61% from where it was at the beginning of this year. And the thing is, I didn't sell out when the stock actually like went way past its valuation. It was up to $183. It was all-time high of $188. I was like, no, I'm holding this company forever. And that's one thing that I learned from holding Lemonade is sometimes the market is wrong and you have to use that to your advantage, not just in buying stocks, but also in selling and taking profits from stocks when they go crazy. And then when they come back to earth, start putting your money back in. But what I was trying to do with Lemonade is basically, I wanted to let the thing run. I wanted to see how it performs over time. At one point, Lemonade was worth about $10 billion. Now it's worth only $2 billion. So this one, and it's also one of those where it was a hype thing for me at first, but then as I learned more and more about the company, I'm glad that I'm investing in it. We'll see how this performs over time. Right now it's down 61% year to date. And that's even if you had bought at the peak, you would be down over 80%, 75%. So for me, my range is in this range where I bought around $50 to $70. I should have taken my triple and ran away. I didn't do that. I was like, you know what? I'm still going to be investing in this company, and I kept on investing. So that's why I put it as a C, because although my mindset changed and I did better, there's still things that I can learn from that investment. Next is Apple. And Apple is an A, man. Nobody can argue with me about Apple. Apple is doing great things. Apple has performed really well this year. If we look at the performance for Apple this year, Apple is, I think it has done like 35% or something like that, 25% this year. So Apple is one of those companies that people keep on saying like they can't grow, and they keep on growing and making all kinds of money. It was kind of a simple play. We'll put Apple, Microsoft falls into that category, and Google is S tier for me. Google is S tier because last year, I don't know who I was talking to. I think I was talking to one of my family members. Yes, I was talking to one of my friends, and his brother works for Google, and we were talking about all the things that Google is doing. And I was like, yo, I need to start dollar cost averaging into Google. And so throughout this entire year, actually, I've never like talked about Google on the channel. I've never told anybody about it. I've just been dollar cost averaging into Google. Like every 2 weeks, I buy Google. It's like, without a doubt, I've been buying Google, and Google has performed unbelievably well this year. Now that might change next year, but so far this year, Google has returned about 65% this year. It's been one of those that I am so happy that I invested in it, because I started researching it more. I started understanding just how big the moat is. I started understanding that I couldn't do anything without Google, that Google is literally the face of the internet. And then now that they're going into cloud services and those kind of things, it was just wonderful. So that's why I put Google as S tier, because I also did good research. There are also reasons why Google, Microsoft, and Apple go into A and S tiers, because these are companies that I know inside and out. Like I know them very well because I did research on them, and they're very well known, of course. Alibaba. Alibaba is going to be A tier, because this is the first time that I was able to prove to myself that regardless of the noise that's going on in the market, I wouldn't sell out in a panic. Because Alibaba, if we look at it right now, Alibaba is, good Lord have mercy. This thing is down over, if we just do year to date, is down over 50%. And it's still falling, like it continues to fall, but I continue to hold. Partly because I'm stubborn, partly because of the sunk cost bias, because, you know, I'm like, well, what's the worst that can happen? This thing can go to zero. And I just keep on buying and holding Alibaba. So it proved to me that I do have kind of the mentality to be an investor. We're going to keep holding Alibaba, and we'll see what happens. And then Amazon falls into the same category as Google and Apple. I just believe that Amazon has a huge runway ahead of it. And one of the things that came up when I was researching about Amazon is, did you know that e-commerce only makes up about 13%, at least in the United States, of all retail? That was like, whoa, only 13%? And that's with the pandemic where everybody was basically shopping for everything online. I was like, there's a lot of growth opportunity there, which is also why I started looking at Shopify. But Shopify was more of a hype thing for me, so it falls into that category with Lemonade, because I invested in Shopify for a short period of time. It was kind of like I started to nibble so that it will force me to learn about the business, but really it was a hype thing, and I just sold out of it. Earlier on in the year, I sold out of Shopify to put that money towards things like Alibaba and Amazon. So I'm out of Shopify. It was one of those, I still like the company because, again, it goes back to that e-commerce where it was 13%, like 13%. And I was just like, yo, that gives a lot of room for Shopify to take a lot of market share and for people to spend. ARK Innovation ETF. Let me put this one up here first. ARK Innovation ETF. This was literally a FOMO hype stock investment. If we look at ARK where it is right now, I bought ARK. If we do year to date, this thing is down 24%. I bought ARK when it was about $140. And for a week, I was looking like a smart dude. It went up to $150. And since then, this thing has just been coming to earth. It has crashed massively. And the only reason I invested in ARK is because at that point, I was being sharpered. In other words, I was following other YouTubers and seeing what it is that they were investing in. I was just following them and buying whatever it is that they bought. That would be a story for some other stocks in here. And after a while, I actually didn't hold it that long. I actually sold out of it. I took my losses. I was like, all right, cool. Like, I think I sold out of it when it got to $130. And remember, I bought it at $140. So I took the loss and I was like, that's fine. I sold out of it. I put it towards Alibaba as well. But yes, this was one of the worst investments for me, not just because of the returns, but also mainly because of my mentality when I bought the stock. It was just a hype thing. I was just following the crowd. Spotify is like a D, because again, it falls into the category where it was like, I was just following a YouTuber and I was like, everybody uses Spotify, so it has to be it. And I didn't really truly do any research on it when I invested in Spotify. I've seen sold out of it because as I've learned more, I've started to do better and make sure that I'm making the right kind of investments that I'm making. So Spotify falls into that D category. The company is actually not that bad. It's actually a good company. I believe that what they're doing now of being like the default audio of everybody. I mean, right now, everybody is seeing what everybody's Spotify Wrapped is. That's a huge thing, social phenomenon, which means more people want to be a part of that. I mean, I know people who switched over because they wanted to be part of the Spotify Wrapped event that goes on at the end of every single year. So that's something that is going for Spotify. But the reason why it falls into D for me is when I invested in it, it was basically just a copycat. I wasn't trying to do any research and I was just following another YouTuber. CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike falls into this category of C for me because I still don't know all that they do. CrowdStrike is a cybersecurity firm. So everything cybersecurity, except the way that they do things is they handle cybersecurity in the cloud. And during the hype during the time when all the cyber hacks was happening, the pipelines were getting hacked, banks were getting hacked, everybody was getting hit with some kind of hack. I was like, yo, this is literally going to be a huge part of the future. And I was trying to find all the players in the space. There's like 5 different players that I looked at. We had CrowdStrike, we have Sentinel, we have Palo Alto. We have a bunch of different ones in the space. And I was just I think I like CrowdStrike the most. I listened to their CEO talk and I was like, I kind of like the stuff that he's saying, but really, if you told me exactly how the business is performing, I don't know. I don't really know. That's why it falls into the C category because it's kind of the hype thing for me. I've not really done my research on it. I've just been nibbling into the stock a little bit. I still need to learn a whole lot more about the company. Next one, Dropbox. I actually had a good return on Dropbox, even though the company itself did not perform well throughout this entire year. If we look at what Dropbox has done this year, Dropbox has returned about 8%, way below what the S&P 500 has returned this year. But I sold out right about this range. I bought in this range and I sold out right about $28 a share. So I made a nice little profit on Dropbox just to get out of it and to put that money towards Alibaba. But the reason why I'm selling out of it, it falls into the category of I was just following other YouTubers. At that point in time, it was YouTubers that were talking about Dropbox and how much money it had on shelf and all that good stuff. And I was just like, yeah, you're right. People do use Dropbox. But then after a while, I was like, I need to learn how to do this on my own. And Dropbox was just one of those companies that I didn't care enough to learn about. Jumia falls into the F category. Jumia falls into the F category because not just because of the returns, because the returns this year have been putrid. It's down almost 70% on the year as far as Jumia is concerned. And the reason why I invested in Jumia in the first place is because when I went to Nigeria, people were using the service and I love the way they had built stuff out because in Nigeria, it's not that easy to ship stuff to door. So what Jumia did is by the way, Jumia is trying to be the Amazon of Africa. And so what Jumia did to counteract that is they had posts. So they built up different post locations to deliver the items that you buy on there. And it was fast. Like you could get things in like a week. You could get things in like 3 to 5 days. It was really, really, really good. However, they are losing so much money. This is one of those investments that I've made where it was like the company is really cool, but as an investment, it just didn't make much sense. You know what I mean? It was like the company is doing something that I really like, but as an investment, probably should not have done it. So that was Jumia, and that's why it falls into F, because at the point, I just invested in business. I didn't really do much of any research. Next company is Intel. Intel is going to fall into this S tier for me. Actually, that's a lie. Intel is going to fall into B or A. I'll say A. Intel is kind of like Alibaba because it's also teaching me that I'm not paying attention to the noise that much when I do a research and I expect, no, Intel is going to definitely fall into B. Intel is definitely going to be on B because this is one of those where the investment also has a significant amount of hope mixed into it rather than just like the business result will carry this investment. It has a significant amount of hope because I think it's a turnaround play for me. I'm slightly being extremely stubborn. I probably should have taken my profits out after the CEO got announced and changed, but I didn't. And now I'm just being stubborn with it. And I believe that they can really actually turn the business around down the road. But overall, Intel, I think it's actually one of my larger holdings now because I just keep on buying into it because I'm like, If nobody wants the stock, I'll take it off your hands because I think this business can really play a big role in the manufacturing of chips as we move into the future. Store Capital. This one is going to fall into the F. I've actually not had great returns on Store Capital. I've only had about 2% year to date on Store Capital. But the reason why it's an F is because this was not one of those investments. I don't know anything about real estate. And I definitely still don't understand everything that goes into real estate. And I definitely did not even want to spend the time researching it. So I basically just went with, I went to with the real estate options that I saw that Buffett had, which he owns Store Capital, sounds like. And he said some good things about Store Capital, and the CEO of Store Capital was putting out really good information about the business. So I just basically was like, oh, that sounds pretty good. And I just went with it. So that's why it falls into F, because I didn't really understand what I was doing. And one of the rules of investing is know what you own. And I can't say that I know what I own in Store Capital. Palantir falls into F as well. This was also one of those hype plays. Everybody was talking about Palantir, and I was like, yeah, let me get into Palantir as well. I don't know what they do. I don't understand the business. I don't know nothing about Palantir. That's why it falls into F category, because it was just a bad investment on my part. And then the next one is SCHD. This falls into S tier. Is a dividend ETF. SCHD is a US dividend ETF by Schwab. And year to date, this thing has actually performed really well. It's given me a 21% return. If we compare it to something like VOO, it's barely losing out to VOO. It's barely losing out to VOO. VOO or SPY, the S&P 500, they've returned 22% on the year. So it's not doing that bad. And the reason why it goes into S tier for me, because it was one where I was just consistent with. I didn't think too much about it. It's an ETF. I was just buying it up regularly keeping the pace. So it's one that I really like. It's one of the ETFs that I love a lot, and it takes a good portion of my portfolio. The next one is Roblox. Roblox is going to be B tier. One, I've done really well with Roblox. First of all, if you pull up the return on Roblox, I think it's doubled this year. We do year to date. Roblox has gone 63%. I bought it when it IPO'd. Was that a buy idea? At this point, not really. But at the same time, I'll say like, yo, it's kind of crazy where the stock is. I don't think the company is worth this much. However, it's done really well for me. I love the company. But yeah, it doesn't fall into S tier with these companies because as much as I know Roblox and I understand the business model, there was still a lot of hype that went into me buying it, because part of the investing should be like your valuation metric, your rate of return, margin of safety, all that stuff. Yeah, all that stuff kind of flew out the window for me when it came to Roblox, because I wanted to own the business. So I just bought into the business. That's why it falls into the B category versus falling into something like the S or A category, where the valuations make more sense for these companies. So that's why Roblox is a B versus an A or an S. And then the final one, SoFi. Another one that I have to give it D, because this was also hype. Like SoFi was hype. I used the product. This is one of those where again, it falls into the category kind of like Jumia. I used the product, but the valuation made no sense. It's just way too expensive, but I was hyped. I was like, I really like it. And everybody around me uses SoFi too. My brother uses SoFi. My roommate uses SoFi. My sister uses SoFi. And it was just one of those where I was like, yo, everybody uses SoFi. And I bought into it. Didn't really think much about the valuation or anything like that. So that's why it falls into D. However, I like what they're doing. I like the business. I like where they're heading. SoFi is going to be one to continue to watch moving into the future. Tesla. This one is an F. As wonderful as my returns has been this year with Tesla, yeah, like 40% for Tesla this year. And it's been great to own Tesla. But once again, this was one of those hype ones. I didn't really care much about the valuation. I just bought into it because hype. I didn't buy that much into it, but I bought into it because of hype. I was just hyped about it, and I was like, why not buy Tesla? And then, it's not good, because that's not how you make investments. You have to know what you own. And I know Tesla, I understand the business, but the valuation is still ridiculous. And then finally, Tattooed Chef, another F. Another one of those where I was literally and simply just following the crowd. I was literally just following a giant YouTuber that kept on talking about Tattooed Chef. And I was like, yeah, I want to get in on it. Do I understand the business? Heck no. I don't even know how much in revenue they were doing. I was just following people who were talking about it, and I bought into it. One of the worst investments that I have ever made, both in the returns and also with my understanding of the business, which was zilch, zero, nothing. And so that's why Tattooed Chef also falls in the F category. So overall, I would say like I bought too many companies. First of all, I was wasting my money buying all these companies. Really, I should have been very focused on those companies that fall into my B and S tiers. These are the companies that I believe have a beautiful future, and I shouldn't have been as distracted by all the noise of all these different companies. Because at the end of the day, these are the companies that I spend most of my time doing research on, most of my time learning about, and most of my time on. So that's why these S, A, and B are companies that in the future, you're probably going to be seeing a lot more content about, because these are the companies that I hold in my portfolio. And these are the companies that I just see doing big things. Now, there may be some additions in there. Some of these other companies may fall into that, like Lemonade, for example, will definitely be in there. CrowdStrike maybe in there as well. So we'll see how that goes into it. But one of the things that I'm learning very much is limit the amount of companies that you're trying to buy into. Like, buy into your best bet. Like Warren Buffett talks about making sure that you're getting the nice pitch. Like, make sure you're getting if you only have 20 punch cards in your life, like make sure you're getting the right punch card, because otherwise it's just better for me to just buy ETFs, which is what I started doing, because I was like, I don't see any good investment options out here. And so if you don't see a good investment, maybe you should just buy into ETFs. It's not a bad idea. It's actually a good plan for investing as well. But anyway, that's all I got for y'all. I hope y'all learned one, maybe two things out of this entire thing. It's a little bit different, but I thought it would be fun just to go through and make me start thinking back through, like, why exactly did I buy these businesses? And then also just to like see like what exactly are we going to do moving forward, and lessons to learn. Number one lesson for me is stop following the crowd. Make sure that when you do your research, when you do research on any company, make sure that you actually understand what that business is, and you're not just doing it based on like, oh, I like the business itself, or I like the product that this business makes. So that's two things that I'm learning from this year that I'm going to be carrying with me into the next year and into the future. I'll soon release a video about the stocks that I'm watching moving into 2022. And you can guarantee it's probably some of these companies that are on this list right now. But anyway, that's all I got for y'all. I hope y'all learned one, maybe two things out of this entire thing. And if you did, hit that like button. If you loved it, hit the subscribe button. But I'm gonna catch y'all up on the next one. Remember, generosity is always greater than greed. God bless each and every single one of y'all. And if you want to stay up to date, there's gonna be a video right there that's going to talk about portfolios and updated portfolios and everything. But I'll catch y'all on the next one. Remember, generosity is always greater than greed. God bless each and every single one of y'all, and I'm out. Peace. Whoosh.